Smaulgld.
Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. It is January the 5th. It is Saturday, 2019, and welcome to Saturday Night Silver with Smaulgld and Seamus. Good to have all the Smaulgld game changers here. Good evening, and good evening, Seamus. Hello, Louis. How you doing? Well, we're doing just fine. Seamus, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing just grand. Well, do you mind now if I go to the bathroom before we get started? No, if you gotta go, you gotta go. So, but do me a favor, Seamus. When you go, could you go for me? Sure, I'll make sure I do that. All right, well, let's get started now. Tonight, we're going to go through... the topic tonight is silver real money, or what is real money? Before we do that, I want to get into some of the charts that we're used to taking a look at, the weekly charts. We haven't really looked at those lately. So we're going to take a look at those charts. Hello, I'm back. Oh, welcome back, Seamus. Did you go for me? No, I forgot. I'll go now. All right. All right, let's take a look at some of the charts that we've prepared for tonight. Let me just tell you what we're going to look at. Divide the show into two parts. We're going to look at the Brinks, JP Morgan, and all the COMEX charts. We're going to look at the commitment of traders, the owners per ounce, all for silver. And we're going to look at Silver Eagle premiums. We're going to look at silver ETF flows. And then we're going to move into the topic for the evening. All right, so let's get into that. Okay, I'm back. Oh, hi, Seamus. But you're a real joker. You didn't have to go. Well, that was fast. Oh, well, you know, time flies. Every day you look around, another day goes by. Oh, all right. Well, Seamus, we're about to get started, so if you are ready to go, we're ready to go. So let's take a look at our first chart here. Okay, so the silver price was up during the week. We closed at 1566, the beginning of the week. Oh, by the way, we haven't done the cryptos. It was an uneventful day in cryptos other than for Litecoin. Very interesting. Litecoin was up at one point to $36. It was up over 12 cents. Right now it's trading at $34.46. It's still up about 8%. It did fall back a bit. Ethereum Classic is down 511 to 511 and down 2.5 points. Ethereum is at 154 up, which is flat, and Ethereum Classic is down 2.5%. Bitcoin Cash is flat at 158.41. And Bitcoin is at 37.95, which is also flat. But Litecoin somehow managed to get that big burst during the day. Not sure what's going on there. All right. Let's take a look, Seamus, at the... let's start with COMEX Silver Holdings, because I like to track how much silver is in the COMEX warehouses. What we're looking at here is the total amount of silver that is in the silver warehouses at COMEX. And that totals about 294 million ounces, of which most of it is not registered, but 211 million ounces are eligible, and 82 million ounces are registered. What does that mean? Eligible means that it's in the 1,000 ounce good delivery bars that meet the requirements that can be used to satisfy contracts under COMEX rules. And of that, about 83 million ounces are registered, which means they're good to go. Someone wants to take delivery, they're already registered. The eligible silver means that they can be registered, they're just not at the moment, but they're the type of silver that can be delivered. Now, in these silver warehouses, like the Brinks warehouse, JP Morgan, where any warehouse, coins and things, whatever the warehouse happens to be, that's COMEX approved, they most likely, and I certainly do, have other silver in there. They may hold custodial silver in the form of silver monster boxes. They may hold silver other bars. They may hold sterling silver. Remember, a lot of these vaults are professional vaulting services, but they're also COMEX approved depositories for silver. So there's more silver in these vaults than just this eligible 1,000 ounce bars. Just keep that in mind. All right. As you can see, there's no shortage of silver in the COMEX vaults. And we've been keeping an eye on the Brinks COMEX vault in particular, and also the JP Morgan vault. Now remember, this is most likely silver held on behalf of clients of Brinks and held on behalf of clients of JP Morgan, although who knows, if we don't know who owns all the silver in there, it's not disclosed. But the Brinks depository really has ramped up its holdings since 2016, when they had about 16, 17 million ounces. They're already up to, all the way up to about 52.59 million ounces. So that's a lot of silver in the Brinks depository. Now over at JP Morgan, they've gone up. They were at about 156 million ounces. They've come down about 10 million ounces over the last 2 or 3 weeks. They went through another period in late October, November, where they also shed, but then they added it back in. So not sure what's going on here, but that's still a lot of silver. That's 147 million ounces. Again, that's not necessarily JP Morgan silver, but just something that we like to keep track of. Now, let's continue with COMEX. And we're going to look at the owners per ounce concept. Now, when people get excited about COMEX default, they're talking about, they generally look at the amount of silver that is registered, meaning that is available for delivery to satisfy contracts if a participant wishes to stand for delivery of the silver owed to him or her under the contract. And what this chart shows is in the COMEX warehouses, because we know that there's those 82 million ounces of silver that's registered, this chart shows us at the top shows the price, which is nothing spectacular there. That's just a chart. You can see the gray line. The second chart shows you the open interest, the second chart down from the top. And it shows that there are 890 million ounces of silver that are subject to contract. And you can see that chart is, it's gone down. If you go to the far right of the second chart down, you can see it's gone down to about 890 million ounces. They were trading contracts this year close to 1.25 billion ounces of silver, but that's come down a bit. But remember, they're trading notional amounts of silver. There's not that, all that silver's not there. And of the registered silver in that 293 million ounces worth of silver at the COMEX, 82.49 million ounces are registered. So you've got 890 million ounces being traded, and you have 82 million ounces that are registered. That takes you what Nick Laird here at Gold Charts, or that's the way he calls it, owners per ounce. They're really not, they don't own that silver. They are potential, have claims on the silver if indeed their contract is in the money and they want to take delivery of the silver. But the owners per ounce, we'll use that terminology, it's convenient, is of the registered silver, it's 10 to 1. Now that indicates, oh, well, it's like a fractional reserve silver. Kind of, it is, but again, most of the people who are trading on COMEX are there for the fiat exposure. They're there to, some of them are just professional traders. They'll never even touch an ounce of silver or gold. They just want to make the money trading up or down and shaving points or whatever they do. Others may want to take delivery, but the amount of contracts that actually take delivery, it's a very small percentage. So a 10 to 1 ratio is not bad. That's probably better than your bank. I would imagine your local bank branch, if you take all the accounts that may be in there, I doubt they have near the amount of cash 10 to 1 to cover the deposits if people all came in. So 10 to 1's not bad. I mean, it's still, technically it's like you would call it fractional reserve, but it's not a ridiculous amount of silver. Now, if you take a look at the eligible amount, just the eligible amount, not the registered amount, you will see that up at the top, it's the same format for this chart, $15.79 for the price of silver. Go down to the second box and you see the amount of silver being traded, notional amount, 890 million ounces. But then you see in the third box there, 211 million ounces of silver are eligible to cover those trades. Doesn't mean that they're registered, but they're in the vaults. There's 211 million ounces of silver in that 1,000 ounce 999 fine silver bars. And so if you look at that from the owners per ounce perspective, that takes you down to 4.21. And again, that's not really that big of a deal. 4.2 to 1, given especially that 95%, 96% of the contracts, 97%, all up to 99% of the contracts never ask for delivery. The contracts either expire by their terms and you're out of the money, or they just roll them over. And then, of course, some people do take delivery. But if you take the totality of all the silver, you take the registered and the eligible, the total amount of silver that is in the COMEX vaults to handle that 890 million ounces of notional silver being traded. If you look at the chart, same thing. You go down to the bottom, owners per ounce is 3 to 1. So anyone telling you COMEX is going to default because there's no silver there, it's complete rubbish, as they say, right, Seamus? Oh, that's right, Louis. You know, these people, they don't understand how the silver market works. No, they don't, and they're led by the nose by a lot of people insisting COMEX default, COMEX collapse, and all that kind of other stuff. So there you go. 3 owners per ounce, 3 to 1. All right, what else do we got for COMEX? Yeah, let's look at the commitment of traders. This is something that I covered about 2 or 3 months ago. Some of you may remember it, and I explained that this was not a big deal. What was happening was we had a situation in the silver market from like May to November. The price just went down. It just went down almost in a straight line. You can see, if you look at this chart here, and you have to go from, take a look from, you got to go all the way to the right and go to the bottom where it says July. It would be 3 in from January, October, July. And then go straight up to the price. And you can see when the price was about $17, you're in the first box at the top, and you're 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes over, and you can see where the price peaked recently at $17. Do you see that? All right, once you've identified that, not to the far left, but to the far right of the chart at the top, you see that $17 price. And then you see the price just go straight down. It goes all the way down to like October, November. And that's a period of months. That's from like June, July, August, September, October. It just goes down. And during that time period, this is when all the silver pumpers are getting all excited. They were saying that the commercials, which are the blue, are now net long. This never happens. And the non-commercials were net short. And I said that's only a function of, that's just the natural. They generally take the opposite side of the trade, but because they were long for so long and short for so long because of the way the price was going, they flipped. And I said, once the price starts to go back up, as you see to the very far right, they would flip again, and now you're back exactly to that dynamic. The commercials in the blue are net short again, and the non-commercials are long again, without any real big change in the price of silver. There's no skyrocketing or anything like that. And there was also the period of time back in the spring of this year, they were saying the same thing, set to skyrocket because of COMEX, never happened before. This is, you really have to just take a reality check when you look at these things. So the commercials are the blue, the non-commercials are the red, and then there's some you don't even know who they are. But the point being that this is the net position. It doesn't mean that everyone who's a commercial trader, which is the banks, or non-commercial, it's just the net number of them. But right now we're back to what you would call the normal situation, where the commercials, the banks, are short again. And the reason they're short, the price is going higher. You can see that. You can see now that the blue lines are now starting to move down to the far right, and you see the price going up, and that's the natural thing. The only reason it ever switched was, if you look at that again, from the 17 down, from July all the way down to October, you never see that. You never see just a straight downward motion, downward price action. Look at the other charts. It goes up because there's a lot more jagged. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Even if the general trend is down like it was from July 2017, but it went up and down. You could see there were pauses where it broke, but you can see it's basically almost a straight line down from July 2018 all the way to October, and that's the reason you have that change there. It's nothing historic or nothing to get all excited about, but of course, if you're pumping something, you get excited. All right, let's just look at silver premiums. We don't yet have the January numbers or preliminary numbers from the U.S. Mint that they might be selling of silver eagles to the authorized purchasers, so we don't have that yet. Probably have that in the next week or so. We don't really know how sales are going. But one thing that I always tell you guys is that towards the end of the year, every year, the silver eagle premiums go higher, and that's because they're running out of inventory, and they charge a bit more if you want to get that year's dated coins. And then silver eagles, the premiums come down as you enter the new year because there's not going to be an issue in January getting your new coins because they're going to inundate themselves with the coins, with the new orders for the year. January is almost inevitably the biggest month of the year for silver eagle coins, sometimes getting as high, I think, 7 million one year. The last couple of years, even in the last couple of years, which haven't been very good, you're still getting 3 and 4 million silver eagles sold in the first month. It's really a function of what's the sell-through on the retail level after the authorized purchasers deliver those. Will they be ordering in February and March at the same levels? Now, in 2015 and into 2016, they were ordering every month, big numbers, 4 or 5 million ounces. And that all kind of fell apart in mid-2016 and really didn't start moving up again until the latter part of this year, but not to the same levels at the end of 2018 that we were seeing in 2013, 14, and 15, because we saw consecutive records in 2013, 14, and 15 of sales of American silver eagles, 42 million, 44 million, and then 47 million, respectively, in 2013, 14, and 15. Just a point of reference that the premiums are normal right now, so it's not a big deal. Now, let's look at silver ETFs. Silver ETFs hold a lot of silver. Here's a chart that shows the silver ETFs. The big ones, SLV is the biggest one. That's the lines at the bottom. Got Sprott in there. It's about 600 million ounces, a little less. Now, an interesting thing about the silver ETF, I don't have the gold ETF one, but I'll explain. The silver ETF, you could see the black line to the far left that follows through. That's the price of silver. And that follows the left axis. It goes 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55. And you can see it got up to $50 an ounce in 2011 in April. But the amount of silver going into silver ETFs doesn't seem to have any rhyme or reason with respect to price. At least it did from 2004 to 2011. Meaning, as the price rose, also these are new products, the ETFs, the ETF coffers filled up with silver. But then as the price dropped, as you can see, from 2011 all the way to now, pretty much the amount of silver continued to rise in silver ETFs. Now in gold, it's a different story. It's almost to the tick. When the price falls, you lose gold in the ETF. When the price raises, gold flows into the ETFs. So silver's different. Except recently, we're seeing silver leaving the ETFs. It's a little strange. You can see to the far right up at the top. It's probably, well, it's happened before. You can see other troughs like that. But generally, the direction is higher, even though the price direction has been lower. Let's take another look, another way of looking at this. Here's one that includes, this is the same chart essentially, but it includes the COMEX silver. So if you remember that COMEX silver we were talking about, that's in the vaults, though that's not ETF silver. If you take that, and there's a couple of other things in here, like Bullion Vault, and I think gold money is in here. That takes you, though, instead of having 600 million ounces, if you add the 290 million ounces from COMEX, you can get over 1 billion ounces that are held in these various types of vaults. Mostly ETF and gold money, Bullion Vault, and COMEX vaults, and so on. So, you know, a year's worth of silver mining production or more is locked away like this. So that's a pretty big deal. Just important to see that. And let me just show you one other chart. Let's see. Yeah, this one is good. This one shows you, there's another nickel-layered gold chart to us, showing us how recently there's the red lines at the bottom show withdrawals from the silver ETFs. And you can see we've pretty much since November been losing silver, and that's pretty much the time you could see the line to the far right gray. The price has been going higher, and the silver's been leaving the vaults, both the ETFs and the JP Morgan and Brinks and COMEX vaults. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe people are cashing in, you know, selling their silver as the price rises. That's the opposite of what happens in the gold ETFs. But again, the silver ETF historically just adds more silver. So anyway, it doesn't mean anything, but we'll keep an eye on it. Sometimes it's good to know all your data points, as many data points as possible, rather than just cherry picking something and then saying, "Oh, this means the silver set to skyrocket," or this doesn't mean. This really is neutral data. But what I take away from it is that there's a billion ounces of silver locked away somewhere in various places. All right, let's see. Do we have anything else on the silver charts? No. All right, well, let's get then into our topic of the evening, which is the is silver money, and what is real money? Uh-oh, we got a moron here.
Presenting the distinguished international news commentator and foreign correspondent,
Smaulgld. This has been an extraordinary week in world affairs.
No, I told Hillary Clinton that that's moronic.
Well, thank you, Bernie Sanders.
That's moronic.
Yeah. The other day, we were talking about, I had done a YouTube on this, about how Louis Gohmert, congressional congressman from Texas, I believe, had introduced legislation that would change Twitter, Facebook, and the rest of them from being platforms to publishers. And the upshot of that would be that they would have liability, because if you are just a platform, then you're not responsible for the stuff that's put on there. But if you are a publisher, meaning you select what goes on there, well, then you're responsible for what you put on there and how you present it. So, for example, the New York Times is a publisher. Obviously, they write their stuff, they put it out there, and then Twitter always trends it no matter what it is, as long as it's against Trump. But the New York Times, Washington Post, Fox News, they are traditional publishers of content. And, of course, if they make up stories and say that they make up defamatory type stories, they can be held responsible, although they have many defenses under the libel laws. We don't need to get into that. The point is, they can be held responsible depending on what they say and who they say it about. Now, if they trash a private person, they're more likely to be held responsible for defamation than they would be if they trash what they call a public figure. But Facebook, Twitter, they don't have to worry about that, because they're not deemed to be publishers. They're deemed to be platforms, and they have the out that says, look, people just post stuff on here. We can't do anything about it. And if someone posts something that's obscene or in any way would cause liability, well, that liability would go to the person who published it, the person who added the content to the platform, not Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. Okay. And that's very good for Facebook and Twitter. But what Louis Gohmert is saying is that they are publishers, because they choose what to show. They choose what to show, and they shadow ban, and they choose what not to show. So you're not a real platform, because if you're on Facebook or Twitter, you're going to see stuff that you didn't ask to see, that they chose for you, they've curated for you. And you may not get to see stuff that you want to see, which means they're controlling the publishing content. So, for example, you cannot decide you don't want to see the front page of the New York Times if you buy the New York Times. They've published it. You have to see it. They can't unpublish it, then they wouldn't be a publisher. So anyone who publishes anything shows it to you, and they've published it. By definition, they're a publisher, and you have to see it. Well, Twitter will have things trend, and everything that trends is either directly from the New York Times, or Washington Post, op-eds, whatever it is against Trump. They're going to trend those stories, and they're not necessarily organic. They're going to pick, or their algorithm is going to pick the stories that they're going to show. It used to be that people could get stories trending just by coming up with a clever meme, Hillary for prison or whatever it is, and then that hashtag would trend all day. And since the 2016 election, they got smart to that. They don't want that to happen, so they've changed everything so that that kind of stuff never happens. You'll never get a trend on something that's pro-Trump or against the Democrats. Now, what they do is they will show you trending topics. And again, it'll be something from the New York Times, inevitably, or the Washington Post. So today, I just happened to see this. The New York Times posts an opinion. Not unusual for them. And of course, the opinion is the people versus Donald Trump. He's demonstrably unfit for office. What are we waiting for? We got to impeach Trump. Okay. And then what they do on Twitter is they will show you top verified accounts all commenting on this article. And every one of them will all be tracked. They'll either be repeating quotes from the op-ed about why Trump is a criminal, why we got to get rid of Trump, whatever it is. And there'll be like 50, 60, 100 of them, all selected top accounts that are anti-Trump. Now, as an experiment, what I did was, catching on to this, I blocked all of them. Blocked everyone. Every time I saw one of these, I blocked like 100 of them. Not only that I blocked them, I muted them. However, when they want to trend something, what they do, and you can see right here, I've blocked Barbara Streisand. But if I click on the hashtag that's trending, whatever it was, I don't know if it was impeach Trump or whatever it was, impeach MF, you can see I have her blocked and muted, and yet they show it anyway. Now, that's not to highlight that Twitter is a flaw in Twitter's system. That's a feature. That's not a bug. That's a feature. That's purposely done because they're going to show you, no matter what you want, they're going to show you not only is this if you're going to click on that hashtag, they're going to publish their top commentators that are all going to repeat this anti-Trump screed. And that, in a sense, is publishing because I can't unsee it. Just like I can't unsee the front page of the New York Times, the front page of the Washington Post, the front page of any newspaper. Why? Because it's published. Well, it's the same here. If it was a true platform, I wouldn't have to see this. I have Barbara Streisand blocked, and I have her muted. She shouldn't show up, but they've published it. Now, this isn't a flaw. This, again, is a feature. They do this on purpose. It's not like, oh, it doesn't work. No, because if Barbara Streisand shows up somewhere else, I won't see her. Well, that's fine. In other words, let's say Barbara Streisand makes a comment under something. I won't see it. But when they decide to trend something, they are publishing, and I will see it, notwithstanding the fact that I have her blocked. So Louis Gohmert has a good case if they pass the legislation. Who knows what will happen from that. Just wanted to point that out because it's a very interesting thing that they've done there, is they have changed the dynamic from being a platform to a publisher. And it's clear what they publish has a bias, and they claim they don't have a bias. And part of being a publisher is you're entitled to have a bias. Smaulgld has a bias. Any publisher has a bias, and that's fine. That's why you publish, and that's why there's a market for stuff. People will like to see pumper channels. They've got their bias. Non-pumper channels have their bias. But Twitter has theirs, but they try to claim they're not, that they're just some type of neutral platform. No way, Jose. Okay, now let's get into what is real money and is silver money. Now, this is one that's happened a lot. We hear this a lot, this whole silver is real money, and so on. And one of the definitions a lot of people use are what is money? And they say, well, it's got to be a unit of account, it's got to be a store of value, it's got to be, and they say that some of the best monies ever created are gold and silver because they're divisible, portable, they're fungible. An ounce of gold is an ounce of gold, an ounce of silver is an ounce of silver. You can carry them around, they're portable, and they act as a medium of exchange. Okay. It is indisputable that gold and silver did perform that function. People carried gold and silver from one destination to the next, and they used it as a medium of exchange. Well, they don't do that anymore. And people keep saying gold is money, period. And people don't understand that gold and silver are money. Well, they were. They were used as a medium of exchange. And then people say that things like the dollar are not money. Well, they may not be desired as a store of value, fiat currencies, but they do operate as a medium of exchange. And they do store some. Now, they may lose value, but they don't lose. Like, for example, the dollar over the last 5 years, may have lost 10%, 8%. I'm not sure the exact number, but it still stores some value. It's not like an exploding thing where it has an expiration date. That would be less likely to be money, but it still could, something even like that could be money if you're using it as a medium of exchange. It's fungible. $1 is the same as the other. It's portable in the unit of account that you have in the cash. Doesn't mean it's better than gold. See, a lot of people, they get caught up on the whole thing that gold is superior and silver is superior. And as we've seen, if you just want to go apples to apples, gold is superior to silver as a store of value. There's no denying that at all. Silver is the spike and dive metal. But that doesn't mean that silver can't operate and hasn't operated as a store of value. It hasn't operated as money. Okay, so I think everyone can agree that silver and gold have been used as money for 5,000 years, period. Just as we can all agree that horses were used as transportation for 5,000 years, period. There's nothing, you cannot deny that humans have been using horses, had been using horses for thousands of years. Humans have been using mugs for thousands of years, glassware for thousands of years. Mugs are drinking vessels, period. By the way, before we move on, I want to play you this clip because this is funny. I was re-listening to G. Edward Griffin. And for those of you who don't know who he is the author of a very fine book. It's kind of the history of the Federal Reserve. Must have spent a lot of time researching it. He goes into the creation of it and so on. And he gets to the point I'm listening to the lecture, and I'm not reading the book right now. It's about 41 minutes in. And he's talking about how this whole thing is a scam and how the Federal Reserve is not federal. It's got no reserves. And it talks about how it just creates money out of thin air and mentions why this is inflationary and why this isn't a good idea. And then he says that, look, if you had money that was backed by gold, silver, and then he mentions one other surprise thing. Let's have a listen.
Monetary system, real money backed by gold or silver or anything of tangible value. Coffee cups.
Anything of tangible value, like coffee cups, yes, like small gold mugs. So one day, maybe we will have the mug standard. When they have the reset, I think we're going to have a mug standard. That's what's going to happen. Okay, well, thank you, Jed Griffin. Yes, gold, silver, or anything of tangible value like coffee cups or coffee mugs. All right, so we've established that gold and silver have been money, horses have been transportations, and mugs have been drinking vessels for 5,000 years. Before we move on, first of all, mugs are still drinking vessels, period. They have not moved on. There is not a new way of drinking. There just is no replacement for the mug. There are now replacements for the horse, the car, and there are replacements for gold and silver as money, which are fiat currencies, digital currencies, and cryptocurrencies. We're not saying they're better. We're not saying they're worse. We're just saying that there are other types of money that are more widely used than gold and silver. cars are more widely used for transportation than horses. Mugs, however, are real wealth, and mugs are mugs. And mugs, there really has been no improvement on the mug in thousands of years. People don't use anything different than they did thousands of years ago. The only thing that changes about mugs is what you put on them. For example, Smaulgld mugshot. There you go. All right, let's get back to our topic. So now we've established that gold and silver were money, and a lot of people still insist they are money, period. Nothing has changed. Well, no, things have changed. And that horses were transportation, but they're not anymore. You can still ride a horse from point A to point B, but that is not the main use of a horse anymore. What gold and silver now are, because they're not used as a medium of exchange, they are used as stores of value. Clearly, people buy them for investment. They think that if they hold gold for a period of time, they will preserve their value. And as we've seen the last couple of nights, if you guys want to go back and look at the videos, we've seen how gold has held its value against many world currencies, including the US dollar, and actually has increased in value versus those currencies over the last 16 years. Silver, on the other hand, has had a less than stellar record in preserving value, but in each instance, other than Australia, it still did better, more than 50% of the time, than fiat currencies, including the dollar. So, gold and silver are clearly stores of value. They have retained that characteristic, that component. What they've lost is the medium of exchange. It's just not a medium of exchange, and as far as I'm concerned, then it's not money. And that offends people viscerally. And the only reason it offends them viscerally is because they've invested so much time listening to videos. Gold is money and everything else is just credit. JP Morgan, gold is money, period. Gold and silver are real money. Gold. They've just heard that on so many channels, and they've just brought it into themselves that they can't get away from it. Now, one of the things they get it from is Austrian School of Economics. And I think they misread Austrian School of Economics. Because if you read the classics, if you read Ron Paul, but even before Ron Paul, you read Murray Rothbard, and you go back, sorry, I want to get the titles here. If you go back to even Mises, because he's one of the original Austrian, he goes back to the turn of the century almost. And they talk about gold, and they talk about the characteristics of gold. And they talk about why it's real money. And they mention things like store of value. They mention things like portable, fungible, non-debt based, valuable, regression theory, medium of exchange, divisible. They cover it all. But what a lot of people don't realize in both Mises and Rothbard is, let's start with Rothbard because he's more current. Rothbard is not in favor of gold because there's some law or because he's decided gold is money, period. No, what Rothbard explicitly states is that the people have determined during his lifetime and before his lifetime that gold was what they wanted to use as money, citing the characteristics of gold. Now that ties into another concept, Austrian school, of Ludwig von Mises, which is human action. Mises is not saying gold is money, period. Mises actually wrote an entire 1,000+ page book talking about how things happen because of what people do, not because of rules that other people set artificially, but because of how people organize their affairs. Human action determines the market, unless there's an intervention. And he's written extensively on interventions, and we've seen that, like the plunge protection team, like the Federal Reserve. Those are interventions. However, it doesn't mean if we didn't have interventions and we didn't have the Fed that gold would be money, period. No, it doesn't mean that. It might have meant that, but I would have guessed, irrespective of the Fed or the PPT or the Exchange Stabilization Fund or Congress or QE or whatever, that in today's society, the medium of exchange still would have evolved to a digital currency, whether that is a digital fiat currency issued by a sovereign or by a private entity. All that digital currencies are updating the paper currencies that used to exist. Now, that doesn't mean that gold, a lot of people are saying that this might be a good idea, would be put gold into digital form. And that would essentially bring back the concept that gold is money, period, because you retain all of the store of value, unit of account, fungible, valuable, portable characteristics of gold, but yet it would be now not some clunky thing to carry around or try to send, but you could have it as a medium of exchange, which would be just as easy, just as fast to send as a fiat unbacked digital currency or a cryptocurrency, which is not backed by anything other than math or an algorithm or whatever it happens to be. Digitized T, for example, an AC chain. So what is real money? Real money is, even in the Austrian School of Economics, it's not gold. It's what people determine they want to use as money. And I think this is a lesson. A lot of people, they've convoluted the idea that gold is money, period. And they won't get away from that. And it's similar to, it's almost an egotistical way of looking at it. You've learned something, you believe something, and therefore it has to be true. Now, one of the first things you learn in marketing or actually in life, that your opinion really doesn't matter. Just because you think something is great doesn't mean that that's what other people are going to think. Now, you may conform your taste to what other people... I'll give you an example. When they first came out with MP3 players, I loved the SanDisk player. I still have it. I still use it. It must be 15 years old. The SanDisk player is a tiny little player that plays MP3 files, and it has a fast forward, reverse. It also has an FM tuner, which means you can listen to the radio on it. It has a screen in which you can see which songs are playing. You can make playlists on the SanDisk player. You can make voice recordings off the player. You can change the settings so that you can increase the bass or the treble, all in a tiny little package, about the size of a matchbook. And it was a lot cheaper. Now, cheaper than the iPod Shuffle. Now, the iPod Shuffle had none of those features. The only thing you could do with an iPod Shuffle was load music in there, and it would just play them. And you had a volume control. There was no screen. You couldn't find the song if you wanted to. You just had to let it play whatever it played. And for many people, that was fine. Now, for someone like me, that to me was going back to the Stone Age. Why would I want that when I can actually select the songs, put on playlists, change the treble, the bass, listen to the radio, make voice recordings? But guess which one sold more? The iPod Shuffle. Why? Doesn't matter why. Just because I wouldn't buy it doesn't mean that that's what people are going to select. Now, the point I'm getting at, it's the same with money. You can insist gold is money, period. Silver is money, period. Well, if no one else thinks it is, then it isn't. You can live in your own world and think that it's money. But if most people think that it's clumsy and they don't want to use it as a medium of exchange, or they'd rather not use it as a medium of exchange because they view it as a store of value, many of you actually may not think, if you think it through, that silver or gold are money. You actually, the reason you buy it is you want to preserve your wealth. That's not money. That's a store of value. That's different. Because if it was real money, the way a lot of people insist it's real money, then it would have to act as a medium of exchange. And you'd have to be willing to use it to trade it, and you don't. I don't think you do. I don't see people going around and buying things with silver or gold. Wouldn't make any sense. Gresham's Law in the first place. Now, give me another example of how your point of view, and I don't mean yours, but anyone's point of view, it shows that people prefer digital currencies. I'm not talking about cryptocurrencies. They prefer the convenience, and they could be wrong, and you can think they're sheeple, whatever you want. But people do prefer using credit cards, debit cards, cash, and wire transfers and cryptocurrencies more than they prefer transacting in gold and silver. Well, that should tell you something. Oh, they're all stupid. Well, maybe they are. And just as I thought everyone who bought the iPod Shuffle was a moron. It doesn't matter. You don't determine what is money. You don't determine just as you don't determine the value of your home. Your neighbors do, unfortunately. You got bad neighbors, you live in a ghetto, then your house isn't going to be worth that much. You can shine it up, you can do whatever you want. Unfortunately, you don't determine what goes to the top of the charts. You don't determine what gets used as money. You don't determine basically anything when it has to do with some type of collective market opinion. I'll give you another example. Music. The music that is at the top of the charts in any given year, one could say is crap. One could even say it's not real music, because Mozart is real music, and Beethoven is real music, and Bach is real music, and Vivaldi is real music. Okay, that's your opinion. But it's better than, and people, once they realize that Bach, no. They might want to listen to atrocious rap. They might want to listen to the Sex Pistols. That becomes what music, not what music is, but that becomes what is popular. And what is popular isn't necessarily, in your opinion, the wisest or the smartest or the best thing. You may think, oh, this digital thing that people don't understand, and when they understand, they're going to go to gold and silver. Why? They don't think that way. They want the convenience, just like you would think after a bunch of pile-up car crashes when the automobile first came out. People would say, oh, this is just too dangerous. We don't want this. Flat tires and going off the road and getting hit head-on by another car. That would never happen with horses, so why don't we all go back to horses? Not going to happen. Once something is shown to be more convenient or fresher, that's why people listen to fresh music and they don't... people are not buying what one might consider the best music out there. A lot of it you would think is crap. Doesn't stop it from selling. It's the same with literature, and Mises makes that point in the anti-capitalist mentality. I think when he's writing in the 40s or 50s, but he's talking about how capitalism, meaning if you're free to choose, means you're free to choose crap. You can read dime store novels, mystery novels. You're not going to pick Jane Austen. Now, Jane Austen is better, but you're not going to... What does that mean, better? You may think it's better. You may think it's real literature, just like you think gold and silver are real money. But if people don't want to use them, well, then they don't have that characteristic. Just like you can argue riding horses is better for you, it's better for the environment, it's more fun, it's more economical, it's safer, and you're going to go to town every day on a horse. All right? Does that mean everybody else is going to use a horse? Nope. It means that you're an outlier. Just as if you think gold and silver are money. And that's not meant as a cut on gold or silver. It's just that their usefulness as a medium of exchange is gone. I call them dormant money. What about an EMP? Yeah, what about an EMP? Of course. Then your horse is going to be valuable, and then your silver is going to be used as money, because you can use silver as a medium of exchange if you can't do digital transactions. I think that's about all I wanted to cover. I want to see what you guys are thinking, if you're even what you're thinking. But let's... Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention, which is just another highlight. Vending machines. Gold vending machines. There's about 15 of them in the world, I believe. I got a list of them here. There's 3 in the United Arab Emirates. There's 3 in the United States. 1 in the United Kingdom. 1 in Switzerland. 2 in Portugal. Who knows? 1 in Germany. 3 in Germany and 1 in Italy. Now, that's because why would you want to buy gold out of a vending machine? What are you going to do with it? I mean, you can buy gold anywhere. It's not like it's convenient to buy it out of a vending machine. There are 4,155 Bitcoin ATMs, which include Litecoin and other coins. There's a reason why there's far more ATMs with Bitcoin than there are for gold. There's no silver ATMs as far as I can tell. Well, the reason for that is convenience. First of all, if you're going to stock a gold or silver ATM, it's sitting there. It's got to be in a well-lit place. You can lose all the gold and silver there. Somebody could steal it. And again, what market is there for somebody to like pull out a few $1,000s and stick it into and get a gold coin? I mean, you can buy a gold coin somewhere else. But the Bitcoin ATMs are interesting because people walk around with their phones, their cell phones. They can just hold the phone up to a Bitcoin ATM and get themselves some Bitcoin for whatever reason, whether they're going to spend it, they're going to save it. And you can't really steal a Bitcoin machine and shake the Bitcoin out of it because it's not in the machine. You need to be able to access the keys. The only way you can do that is you have to put money in. So you wouldn't really gain anything by stealing a Bitcoin ATM. So my point is, no matter what you think, if the world is heading in one direction and you're going in the other and insisting that the world's going to come around to your point of view, it's probably not going to happen. You may wish it to happen. You may think it's the right thing to happen. You may find other people who agree with you that think it's the right thing to happen. And it's typical what happens in every generation. The older people think the younger people are morons. But the younger people are going to determine what the world is going to look like, not you. You've already passed your chance, and all you can do is complain and try to teach the youngins why gold is money, period, and silver is money, period. If they're not interested in that, or they don't see the compelling need for it, it's not going to be. All right, let's see what you guys... It doesn't mean it's not a store of value, and it doesn't mean it's not valuable. Just like horses are valuable, and of course, mugs, small gold mugs. Let's take a look at what you guys are talking about. And Holland, well, we got the normal crowd shuffling in here. It's a Saturday night. Here it is. JR Innovation. Silver is real money, period. Bitcoin is not. Okay, that's your opinion. And again, there's no law on that. That's why people think they think that if they make a self-serving assertion, gold is money, period, that somehow that means it's a law or it just means it's a fact. No, it doesn't. Certain things like money require consensus. They require the marketplace to view it as money. Clearly, as we've seen, when people are locking up silver over 1 billion ounces in the funds, they're doing that not because they want to spend it someday. They want it as a store of value. So yes, gold and silver are stores of value. They are valuable commodities. They can be and have been used as a medium of exchange and therefore money. They are not now. So gold, in my opinion, is not money. Cannot be money until it is in some Twilight Zone world, it becomes reactivated as money as a medium of exchange because of, probably not because of personal preferences, but because something happens and makes it impossible or impracticable to use digital fiat or digital crypto or digital anything or even paper currency. Then, of course, I can't think of anything else better than gold or silver as a medium of exchange. All right. Be honest, Lewis. Have you received any donations of Bitcoin or Litecoin? Yes, I have. I've been receiving Bitcoin donations since 2015. In fact, if you were here last night, I received $6.88 worth of Litecoin, and that is now worth $7.21. Yes. All right. Yeah, and it says, yes, I did last show. Let's see. Gold and silver are made by God. Yes. And that doesn't detract from the fact that they were made by God. That is a statement that is correct. And Bitcoin is made by tech geeks. That is correct too. There are many things that are made by humans that still have value. That is what humans do. The concept of value comes from humans. That's my whole point of that whole monologue that I gave. People determine what is valuable. People create things of value. So just because people created Bitcoin doesn't mean it's not worth anything because they create it. People create movies. Does that mean they're not worth anything because people created them when you can just go out and look at nature? Think that one through. A lot of things that people do are imitations of nature. Art imitates nature, they say. Doesn't mean they're not valuable. Books are made by people. Does that mean that they're not worth anything because some intellectual geek wrote a book? I don't understand the idea. I would dump Bitcoin long before I ever sold my gold. Well, that's fine. That's based on where you think. Now, again, it's not your opinion that matters. It's your opinion versus what the rest of the market's going to do. So if you would dump your Bitcoin, and you would think that's a smart move, but let's say the world is stupider than you are, and they think that Bitcoin is worth more money, well, then you'll lose money even though you're smarter than the rest of the world. Greetings and salutations. Hello, Philip. It's good to see you now. Seamus is here. I've been quiet the whole time, but Lewis has been doing a grand job, going off on a lot of people, talking about Bitcoin and talking about gold and silver and coming down the road and everything. I love me gold and I love me silver, though, I have to say, Louis. Louis, you got to get with the gold. All right, Seamus. Don't you have to go to the bathroom again? All right. If I was a wealthy investor, I need my liquidity. Okay, that's fine. Cryptos are great for donations, for transferring to friends and family, says Ann Holloman, instantly without a third party. Right. And you could do the same with gold and silver. And I've asked people if they want to send me gold and silver. They can. It's just it takes longer. It's not a value judgment. It's the fact that people have valued cryptos regardless of your own personal opinion of them. They value them so they're worth something in fiat, just like gold and silver are worth a certain amount of fiat. And that fiat has value because it can be used as a medium of exchange. Period. And that's why you own anything, is because it has some value to somebody else that you can sell it to. And they are not easily transferable. That's right. Gus the Broken is here. Good to hear from you from the Netherlands. Scott Wardell, if the Fed falters, I actually like the ramp up of Brinks and JPM and inventory. Silver's in the vault like money in the bank. Can't hurt, Bernanke would say tradition. That's right. Again, silver and gold are valuable. That's why they're in vaults. That's why they're not just sitting on the curb. That doesn't mean they're money, though. Okay, Jared Innovation. Bitcoin is pure evil Luciferian type. It trades 24/7, which messes with human emotions far more than gold or stock. First of all, if you don't think gold doesn't mess with human emotions, you haven't seen The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. My precious. My goodness. All right, Bitcoin's going to crash. Jared Innovation. Lewis is very knowledgeable about gold and silver, but he's destroying his credibility, trying to legitimize a Ponzi scheme. I'm not legitimizing anything. I am See, what you're saying is, and you can counter if you don't think this is a correct characterization, I am saying that the world has valued, or markets have valued, cryptocurrencies for reasons that you refuse to accept as valid. And that's fine. You could say, well, it's not worth anything and it's going to zero. That is your market opinion. That doesn't mean it's true. And I'm not trying to validate it. I can't, again, my point of view is I don't validate anything. I look at what the markets are doing because my opinion doesn't matter, nor does yours. I am not trying to validate. As I told you, I wouldn't select the Bitcoin or Litecoin. I wouldn't select an iPad, what is that thing? The Apple iPod Shuffle. But if other people do, my opinion doesn't matter. And I think you're missing that point is I don't create the rules. I don't move the markets. I've got nothing to do with anything. That's why I analyze stuff. And if I see that people are using and have assigned a value to Bitcoin or Litecoin, who am I to say it doesn't have that value? It does. For example, get away from Bitcoin and Litecoin. Pollock paintings. Jack the Dripper throws paint on a canvas, sells it for millions of dollars. My point of view, worthless. I'd rather have my kids fingerprinting. Okay, that does not, my opinion, does not detract from the fact that those paintings are worth millions of dollars. They are worthless and they are useless, and no one would ever buy a painting like that. I can't see why they're, and you go on a tirade. Jackson Pollock, what a ripoff. He's a scam artist. All right. But your opinion doesn't matter to the art collector who, in your opinion, is foolish enough to pay $10 million for a Jackson Pollock and then 10 years later sell it for $25 million. What a moron he is. You see, that's where I think people are not understanding. My whole point of view is objective analysis. I'm not pushing a Ponzi scheme. I'm not destroying my credibility by promoting Bitcoin. I'm not. I'm showing where it has value based not, and actually in my own case, yes, someone sent me Bitcoin. I've received Bitcoin and Litecoin, and it got converted to a payment processor, and I received the fiat currency. How did I not benefit from that? All right, Pablo Pina. Can you explain the paper to silver ratio 191 to 1? There is no 191 to 1. I don't know where you have to explain to me where you got the paper silver ratio 191 to 1. Scott Wardell, I thought Seamus was anglicized or Americanized into Seamus. Shilly me or silly me. Right then, go on. Where's Seamus? Hello, Seamus. Where are you? All right. Custa Broken, hi, Ann. Hope you're feeling well and good. So much going on, it's hard to keep track sometimes. Yeah, he's on a lot of things here. Don't be stupid is here. Sup, stackers. Hello, DB. And then we're coming late. I hope you go back and you listen to the initial monologue on, well, there's a lot of good charts in the first segment, and in the second segment, we went through is silver money, what is real money, and so on. Gosh, you have to know when you put in links for music, they don't show up. So there's no point in putting them in there. And second of all, no one's going to listen to, well, they might listen to music while they're supposed to be listening to me. Okay, Scott Wardell. On the COTS, at least the volume has shrunk a little bit. Just a little bit. Like maybe the banks are afraid of doing too many shorts anymore, fingers crossed. Could be. I mean, they have flipped back to being net short, though, the commercials. But, of course, hope springs eternal. All right, let's see. Chinese New Year and Indian wedding season. But that goes more for gold than silver. Anyone who missed the show that I did called American Stackers versus Chinese Silver Stackers, you'll see, according to the Silver Institute, Americans actually buy gross amounts more of silver than the Chinese do. And the Chinese have, 3 or 4 times more people. Chinese are not big silver investors, nor are the Indians. That Indian silver import number I give you each and every month reflects mostly silver for industrial, silver for silverware, and silver for jewelry, not silver for like in bars. All right, let's see. Seth Shepard is here. Hello, Seth. Good to see you. Your mug will go out on Monday. Cool. Let's see. La Plata Peak. I would pay to see a ceiling dance-off between Lewis and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with Litecoin even. Well, I can't dance like she can. I know why people are giving her a hard time. I mean, so she's a young woman. She wants to dance. First of all, it was an older dancing, and she danced, and then. But what's interesting, what they're trying to do, I don't think people really do care. I think they're creating a straw man and saying, "What's the matter? Girl can't dance." I don't have a problem with her dancing. I got a problem with her economics. I have no trouble with her if she wants to dance. She can sing too while she's at it. All right. Barbara Streisand put on her yellow vest in protest. Let's see. Scott says, curious that Martin Armstrong has long held that cyclical turning means governments hold weakest hands and their IOUs will be trashed when they lose power. Hope he's right. I don't listen to that kind of, all these predictions. If you look at Martin Armstrong's predictions, a lot of them, I'm not even going to go through them. Someone actually did it. They put out a website and they got them all. And you read these predictions, you're like, no, he was wrong. No, he was wrong. He was wrong there. He's wrong. I just don't hang on anyone's words. They think they know the future. They've been wrong so many times. Martin's theory, Scott is gold. Yeah, okay. Mugs are a good hedge, says Pablo. Absolutely. Barbara says, hello, it's a silver guru. Sounds like you've had enough of Babs. Who could ever? Silvery voice said no. Yeah, she's not a bad singer. I don't like that kind of crooning, but not against her. I just was pointing out that what I did was I blocked people that I knew that Twitter publishes, irrespective of whether you want to see them or not. People are losing confidence in the dollar only because they see that on YouTube. Yeah, Evergreen. You know what's the song that she does well is Memories too, the one from Cats. Very nice song. All right. Griffin stole Eustace Mullen's early 1950s work, Secrets of the Fed. Yeah, I read that too. I remember seeing that. I forgot about that. That's right. There was that book first. He probably had it next to him while he was reading. Pablo's calling me a mug pumper. I'll have a gold mug. Yes. And Gus is still posting music here. All right. Deceptive mugshot. Mine wasn't 5'4". Yeah. Well, let's see. You know what the one to get? My favorite mugs. I have, well, I like a lot of them, but my top 3 have to be the Smaulgld Super Classic mug. Not as much a fan of the Smaulgld travel mug. I like to use it, and that's one I use the most because I just coffee in it. But I don't like the look of that as much. The one I really think is the finest looking of the Smaulgld Super Classic, but I really like the Smaulgld Beer Stein, the 22 ounces. It looks regal. It's got gold trim. You see that? Not real gold, but maybe it is. I don't think it is, though. But that is a fine-looking beer stein available on. I just go to smaulgld.com. You can figure out how to buy stuff there. It's very good. All right. You guys are talking about cashes and checks and pawn shops and. All right. Let's see. MK Hernus. Haven't seen you here before. At least I don't think so. Taylorville. Cole, wouldn't you fear carrying gold to another country for fear of confiscation or theft? Now, gold was, up until the digital age, the best way to transport wealth. And in fact, what a lot of people, they said that fled Eastern Europe, they would stitch it into their clothing. Or, you know, they might let you go by with a necklace or a ring. But clearly, gold was the not only store of wealth, but the medium of exchange. And as JR Innovation points out, it's God's money, so to speak. There's no denying it. It's just that people have done other things to make the transfer of wealth or value easier. Now people go, digital illusions of wealth. Not really. It's actually a digital representation of wealth that you can use to buy tangible items. You can buy a house with a wire transfer. That's not a digital illusion of wealth. That's just a digital representation of wealth. Whew. Okay. Digital illusion of wealth. All right, where are you? Poor areas won't know or accept Bitcoin. All right. I'm not, again, nothing is universal. If someone's not going to take Bitcoin, that doesn't mean it doesn't have its place or its value. And if you think that gold and silver are valued because there's going to be an EMP, well, there hasn't been so far. That doesn't mean there won't happen, but it may never happen, which would mean that your whole thesis for holding gold and silver was purely for insurance, and maybe you bought too much insurance. Apple shot, what is that? I can only hear. Fiat is printed at will, says Jack AG. Crypto takes resources to create. Yep. Can take gold to any jewelry store for money. That's true. I trade silver for beef jerky from my hunting friends. Yes, you can trade amongst yourselves. And I can only buy the Sansa MP3 player for my family. But it doesn't change the whole trend that everyone else bought the iPod Shuffle. Doesn't change the fact that you are amongst a handful of people that trade silver. All right. I wouldn't take a gold coin from someone I didn't know unless I can verify that's authentic. That's a very good point, because one of the things about the Bitcoin and Litecoin supposedly transferring value is you get it confirmed. You get a confirmation. There's no... Now, you could say, well, it's not worth anything. It's the digital illusion of wealth. Well, no, it's not. Because if you can convert it into another representation of wealth, which is a fiat dollar, and buy stuff with it, then it is a digital representation of wealth. All right. Scott Wardell, de musique, but Vivaldi and should be the gold standard or they are wrong. All right. Gold is anonymous. That's right. Gold doesn't require anyone's permission. Doesn't require a cell phone. That's right. The reason gold was money for 5,000 years is because it is the perfect form of money in an analog world. No two ways about it. No two ways about it. Japan and Korea. All right. Gold money is owned by Soros. No, it's partially owned by Soros. It's not owned by source. Does that mean Ethereum is owned by Vitalik? No. He can just say no more and it disappears. Someone educate me. Why you say this is Gur Olig? I don't know who that is. Someone new. Why you say the world have valued the cryptos? If less than 2%, who are the cryptos? And 1% of those own over 95% of the cryptos. Yeah, I thought that one through. Go back to my art example. How many people in the world own Jackson Pollocks? How many people own Picassos? Got the answer? Not many. Does that mean that Picassos and Jackson Pollocks aren't worth anything because the whole world doesn't use them, doesn't buy them, doesn't collect them? No. That's the thing that people miss about Bitcoin and Litecoin. You don't have to have the whole world buying and selling Litecoin for it to have value. There just has to be enough of people in the market that will ascribe value to it. Look at it this way. How many people own gold and silver in the world? Very, very few. Does that mean gold and silver don't have any value because less than 1% of the people in America have it? No. There's nothing that everybody owns. So that's how the world has valued cryptos. That's how the world has valued Jackson Pollock. There is a market for everything. It doesn't have to be the whole world valuing it. In fact, as I mentioned with Jackson Pollock, 95% of the world probably looks at it and says, I wouldn't give you 2 cents for it. Does that mean that a Jackson Pollock can't go for more than 2 cents? No. It just means I'm not in the market for it for 2 reasons. I don't like it, and I don't have the money to buy one. Well, that's how I say it. Mark Battaglia, gold money isn't owned by Soros. That's a false narrative. He bought some of their stock just like anyone can. Yes. Just the broken. Let's see. Okay. Cold Divine. Bitcoin has fallen 90%. Can you imagine if Smaulgld WAD given Bitcoin at 20,000, he forgot to exchange it for dollars? Yeah. Imagine if somebody did give me the equivalent of $20,000. I definitely would convert into fiat currency and put it. And you know, actually, if somebody gave me a full Bitcoin at $20,000, I would have immediately converted into fiat and bought something, either a car or maybe I would have bought gold. I don't know, but I definitely would not have held it in Bitcoin. But remember, the amounts that I get sent piddling amounts. I don't get a lot of, but I do appreciate it. I mean, when I say I'm not being ungrateful for the amounts that are sent, but no one sends me $20,000. You can try it, see what happens, and then you could do a poll. What would Smaulgld do if he got a full Bitcoin? Let's see. Comes in waves. Can you change your settings to live chat? You might see a line or two. No, I'm not ignoring your comment. What's happening, Gus, is that when you put music YouTubes up, they don't show up. They show up, but they show up as banned. How come there are only like 10 likes as La Plata Peak? Because people want to hear gold and silver are set to skyrocket. Gold is money, period. Silver is money, period. Bitcoin and Litecoin are digital illusions of wealth. They're a Ponzi scheme. That's what most people want to hear. All right. Yes, Jack says adoption of Bitcoin vending machines in 2019 will increase market cap. I thought that went through, Jack. I think what will happen is I did a poll. I asked, like, if you had like $20, would you buy a lottery ticket in the grocery store or would you put it in the Bitcoin machine? Some people say they wouldn't do either. But most people who were going to blow the money would blow it on the Bitcoin machine. Now, that means that you now have $20 on your wallet worth of Bitcoin. It could go up, it could go down. At some point, you're going to want to get rid of it. Well, that's going to increase adoption because if everyone sees it as a curiosity, buys it, the store has an incentive to put the machine in there because he knows he's going to probably get that money back if he accepts Bitcoin or Litecoin. All right. It's better to have a small piece of something big than a big piece of something small. That is correct. All right. Let's see. Gus the Broken. Reasonable is to transfer your Bitcoin without a third party. Yep. Scott Wardell. But the Jackson Pollock buyers are, though, 0.1% stupid. They've never judged anything correctly and are crony coupled in. We'll see. It's your opinion. I mean, first of all, if someone's stupid enough to have $12 million to buy one, I mean, I don't know how that works. Okay, Gear Ole. And by the way, blockchain is free to use. That's right. It's only some smart heads who figure out they can fool some people to think it's worth something. Well, your opinion is that value is generally a function of fooling people. And to a certain extent, you are correct. Because the only things of real value, gold and silver have no real value. The way food does, water does, air does, shelter does. That's real value. Everything else is just, I guess silver and they might be valuable to make something out of. But value is a marketing game. That is absolutely true. But there's certain things you can market easier than others. So if the idea is you convince people that the cryptocurrencies are worth something, which to me was a stretch. I don't know how they did that. But once you accept it, and people do because there's a market value of Bitcoin, that you can transfer it without anybody stopping you, meaning you don't have to run through a payment process, or they can't say, I don't like you. You can't send that to Smaulgld because he's been banned from Patreon. He's been banned from PayPal. You can still send it. So that's kind of marketing that does itself. So you may not agree with that other people believe something is worth something. That's my point. It's the same with the Jackson Pollock painting. Who the hell would want that? It's just a bunch of splatters on a paint. He's convinced people, meaning he's tricked people into thinking that his painting, which I don't think is a painting, I think he threw paint at a canvas, is somehow worth something. You're right to a certain extent, but does that mean that there's not value there because you don't see it? It's more of a philosophical question, but I do we get back on? Yep, we got back. Sorry, I got cut off there. I just was thanking everybody for joining me. Again, to conclude, my point is I don't believe anyone, not myself, not anyone on this thread, not anyone in the world can determine what value is on their own and make blanket statements. Jackson Pollock isn't worth anything. Bitcoin isn't worth anything. Gold is money, period. These are all things. Value is determined by a marketplace, and that marketplace doesn't necessarily have to be the world. It can be just a few people in a small market, for example, that happen to like art. Jackson Pollock. All right, everyone, thank you very much for listening. Make sure you get your Smaulgld mugs. They're game changers. They are real wealth. They are the only thing that matters, and they are drinking vessels, period. Have been for 5,000 years. Everything else is just water through your hands. Good night. Mugs on the blockchain. That's right. Oh, hello, Troy Ounce. Sorry you came late. Please go back and listen. Let me give you a good night here. Good night. Oh, Seamus, say good night. Or good night, everybody. We'll be hoping to see you soon. But Louis doesn't always have me on the show because sometimes I've got to go to the bathroom. He doesn't like when I go in the middle of the show. It's all right, Seamus. Just make sure you go for me when you got to go. All right, Louis. We'll be seeing you tomorrow then. Good night.